Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back to another day in the life of an Evertonian. It is day number, 784 or 184, however many years it's been since Everton were founded. Episode number 24 of the highly popular, award-winning, critically acclaimed television show Everton, A Social Experiment. Everton Football Club have had quite the period of hours, quite the 16 hours so far. It isn't yet over. Obviously, over the course of the last 16 hours, we've heard that Danjuma's move has completely fumbled, and in fact, the player was supposed to turn up at Finch Farm today to begin training with the team. According to various reports, the deal was all but completed, all but one final piece of paper, a registration paper that needed to be sent from Danjuma and his agent over to the FA to confirm his deal. Various reports suggesting that even the media was done for the signing, aka pictures and videos of him holding the shirt and talking about the football club in interviews. Now, other reports are suggesting that that isn't the case, but nevertheless, this deal was pretty much, as I said, as close as a deal can be without it actually being done. And the player decided to today not bother turning up to Finch Farm, despite the fact Everton were expecting him to turn up, and instead has travelled down to London to hold talks with Spurs. And it actually looks like he is going to sign for Spurs on loan until the end of this season. He's gone full Sissoko on us, turning the car around on the M6 towards London and turning his phone off and basically saying, I don't know what you're talking about, I was never signing for Everton. We've also heard over the course of the last sort of couple of hours that Newcastle United are in talks with Everton for a move for Anthony Gordon. Luke Edwards from The Telegraph reports that Newcastle United are growing in confidence that they will beat Chelsea to the signing of Anthony Gordon from Everton, and the player is keen on the move. Fabrizio Romano also said negotiations between Newcastle and Everton for Anthony Gordon are ongoing. Craig Hope had reported that earlier on today, and we've just heard from Ben Islington and Sky Sports News that both Anthony Gordon and Amadou Onana were absent from Finch Farm today and haven't trained with Leighton Baines and Paul Tate and the rest of the squad. So, yeah, we are 16 hours into a Tuesday afternoon, and this could go down on record as one of the most stressful days I've experienced being an Evertonian in the 24 and a bit years that I've been alive on this planet. When will this pain end? When will it end? When will we get a day where we just have constant good news? Will we ever get a day where, we wake up and there's a player is signed at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we get to 2 o'clock and we've had some really good news about another player, or, at 4 o'clock we get another signing announcement? Will we ever have a day like that where it's just constant good news, constant positive energy, constant positive vibes, or will it always be this way? Will it always be this way, which just seems like it's been written by one of the best comedians on the planet, one of the best comical actors to have ever walked the earth, has written a story about a imaginary football club in the northwest of England that just simply can't get anything right. I mean, only Everton Football Club could go from yesterday sacking a manager and being linked with various different managers to 24 hours later, a player that seemed nailed on to sign for us turning around and saying, actually, I'm going to go there. Two of our current squad members not turning up for training, and one of them being heavily linked with a move away to Newcastle, the other one being linked with Chelsea and Arsenal today. So the Amadou Onana stuff isn't just out of nowhere. It's not like he just hasn't turned up for training. He has been linked with moves away from the football club in this window. Managers that Everton was seemingly interested in yesterday turning around and saying, actually, I don't really fancy it because I don't think that this current squad of players could play the way I wanted them to play. We are simply just a social experiment, aren't we? We really, really are. a test to see how much pain and how much torture and how much trauma a human brain can withstand before they go, it's too much, I'm not doing this anymore. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I don't know if I'm nearing that stage, to be honest, because the moment I read the Danjuma news about him, not reporting to Finch Farm and doing a U-turn and wanting to go and speak with Spurs instead, typically maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I'd have read this news and I'd have been gutted, I'd have been fuming, I'd have been frustrated with the football club, I'd have been frustrated with the player, I'd have been absolutely devastated. And I remember very, very similar happening with Sissoko when it happened, and Sissoko was, on the way to Finch Farm to complete his medical and this, that and the other, and then he made the U-turn, turned his phone off, and all of a sudden he was going to Spurs. I remember it happening with Sam Bydom as well, if you remember him, right back, who I think either ended up going to Leeds or went from Leeds to West Ham. He was on the brink of signing, and then he done a U-turn and ended up signing for West Ham. And I remember in both of those situations being absolutely gutted. I was devastated, I was fuming, I was frustrated, I was angry, I was annoyed. Whereas when I read this today about Arnold Danjuma, I just didn't care. I really, really didn't care. And I don't know whether that's because I'm now in a state of that much has gone on over the course of the last 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. In fact, over the course of the last 12 months, that when we're hit with situations like this, it just doesn't really faze me anymore. It simply doesn't really faze me. Now, we'll have a little look at, obviously, the latest as to what's going on with the Danjuma stuff, because, again, I think it's interesting to delve into where all of this has come from, and it's come from various different reports and various different media outlets. Now, as of this morning, at 8 o'clock this morning when I entered work, we were all under the impression that the Danjuma stuff was pretty much done and dusted, that we were just waiting for an announcement. And I think I sat here yesterday when we spoke about Frank Lampard being sacked and said that, don't be surprised if the Danjuma announcement follows quickly to try and divert the attention from the situation with the manager. And then all of a sudden, literally a matter of 2 hours ago, Sports Pete on Twitter, Pete O'Rourke, who's a freelance journalist, tweeted out Tottenham have hijacked Everton's Arnaud Danjuma deal. Everton was set to announce the loan signing of Danjuma today, and that obviously sparked a little bit of attention. That obviously sparked a little bit of questioning and anxiety within the Everton fan base, naturally, because, as I said, things are up in the air at the moment. The club is an absolute shambles. It's ran like a circus, and at the moment everything's all over the place. So when you hear a rumour like that, even if it is just a rumour that somebody might have made up, naturally it causes a lot of anxiety, it causes a lot of stress, and it causes a lot of panic within the fan base. And listen, I've said this before and I'll say it again, people often see rumours like this, or people often hear rumours, and you always hear the old adage, don't you, the old saying, or somebody's messaged me on WhatsApp, or somebody's put in a WhatsApp group chat that this actually isn't happening anymore, or this is happening, or that's happening, or the other. And you'd always sit there and you think in your brain, well, it's just some nonsense that somebody's chatting on a WhatsApp group chat, what do they know? But it's always them types of situations that end up becoming true. It's always that. And I remember when Carlo Ancelotti left Everton Football Club, the first thing that any of us ever heard about it, before it even leaked to the Spanish media, was somebody saying, oh, I've heard from somebody in our WhatsApp group that Carlo's on his way out, he's going to Real Madrid. And I remember going to Twitter and going, oh, it's a load of nonsense, it's just someone chatting on a WhatsApp group, it's probably just some Liverpool fan who hasn't really got a clue what he's talking about. And then all of a sudden, 24 hours later, Carlo Ancelotti's officially left Everton Football Club, and this mess sort of began at that point, didn't it, really? Well, I mean, obviously this mess was going on beforehand, because the board have been absolutely useless for years. But I remember that was first leaked on a WhatsApp group chat, and again, obviously Pete O'Rourke is a freelance journalist and somebody that has gotten things right before on social media, also gotten things wrong, so you could see where that thought of, hang on, this is probably a load of shite come from. But then it started to hit more sort of mainstream journalists, if you like. Michael Bridge of Sky Sports reported that Tottenham have made a late move to sign Danjuma on loan from Villarreal. Yesterday we reported Danjuma had agreed a deal to join Everton. Everton expected to complete the deal today, but Danjuma is travelling to London for Spurs talks. Paul Joyce said Tottenham Hotspur expected to now also move for Danjuma. The player underwent a medical at Everton over the weekend, but has not, as of yet, signed paperwork on the deal. Alistair Gold reported then, who is a Tottenham Hotspur correspondent, reported that Danjuma is on his way to Tottenham's training ground for his medical. And then we heard from David Ornstein, who of course is one of the big boys, one of the big journalists. This was followed by Fabrizio Romano saying something similar. Ornstein said, Arnold Danjuma is en route to Tottenham's training ground to undergo medical after Spurs hijacked Everton's move for the Netherlands international forward at the last minute. 25-year-old now set to join Tottenham Hotspur on loan from Villarreal until the end of the season. And then you had various different reports over social media from members of people that may have heard information from various sources within the football club saying that he was due to turn up. I think Vinny O'Connor reported earlier on that Everton, as far as they were concerned, were expecting Danjuma to turn up at Finch Farm earlier today, and when he didn't turn up, there was questions asked, and those questions were obviously answered by, oh yeah, we've not turned up because we're actually going to go to Tottenham instead. And yeah, as I said, this seems like such a mad situation, doesn't it? It seems like such a, oh my God, how could that happen? A player that has done, allegedly done all of his media duties and had the interview and held the shirt up and was one paper away from being officially an Everton player and announced and all of that sort of stuff. How could it possibly happen that within the space of, what seems like 5 minutes, he's now all of a sudden going to another club and this club has been left on its arse and this, that and the other? It seems like such a, wow, this is unbelievable breaking news, never seen before. But it isn't with Everton. It's just another day. Like I said, it's just another day. Another episode of the never-ending social experiment that is Everton Football Club. There must be directors and writers and producers in Hollywood that watch what goes on at Everton Football Club and think, fucking hell, I couldn't even write that. Award-winning, Oscar-winning, Golden Globe-winning directors and writers must look at Everton and think, fucking hell, you couldn't write that if you tried to write a film or a programme about the maddest football club in the world that get everything wrong and everything bad goes against them. You still couldn't write what goes on at Everton Football Club. And that's why it didn't shock me. And that's why my reaction was just to, well, I best get this tweeted out and then we'll talk about it on a live stream later. Today's live stream wasn't even meant to be this. It was meant to be a review to the West Ham game, and we are still going to do a review to the West Ham game. By the way, that's probably going to be a video at some point over the course of the next couple of days when things start to calm down a little bit, because A, the game was on Saturday, and B, a lot of that review will be talking about what the manager got wrong, and the manager isn't here anymore. But I am still going to do it because, we do a review for every game. Yeah, as I said, this should be something that we all sit here and we go, oh my God, how has this happened? I'm so shocked, this, that and the other. But I'm not. I'm just not shocked, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and scream and shout at the camera and scream and shout to try and get views or to try and get people watching, or, there'll probably be loads of people in the comments that are fans of other football clubs who have come here to see me scream and shout. I'm not going to do it, because for me to do that, I would have to be highly emotionally wound up because of something that I haven't expected. But I expect this from Everton Football Club. I mean, this comment's great. Lewis says, you guys think you've got a bad side being a United fan. Do me a favour, mate, and bounce. You've won about 14 league titles in the 24 years that I've been alive. Over the last 6 years, you've won a Europa League, a Carabao Cup, a FA Cup, whatever else you've won. I've never seen Everton win a trophy, mate. I've seen Everton go to one final and we lost convincingly to Chelsea. So get to fuck with all this try being a United fan. Your club spend over 200 million quid every summer and get away with it. So bounce. But anyway, yeah, again, it never fails to just, amaze me wouldn't be the right terminology, because I'm not amazed. I just understand it. I come to expect it now. And then when you read an hour later that Anthony Gordon's in talks with Newcastle, it's like, yeah. And then when you read Onana is being linked with Chelsea and he hasn't turned up for training, you think, yeah. So now I'm fully prepared for Anthony Gordon to leave Everton Football Club in this window, Onana to leave Everton Football Club in this window, Sam Allardyce to come back in as manager, because that's a report that we've heard today. I'm just expected to hear all of this, and I'm ready for it. I'm waiting for it, because with Everton, you expect the unexpected, and things like this should be massive shocks. I should be coming on here saying, what's going on? It's this, it's that, it's the other. But it only happens to us. It really, really does only happen to us. And on the Danjuma stuff, look, obviously I'm disappointed because he ultimately would have been a player that would have come in and improved Everton. I'm not going to lie, the minute we sort of heard about the Frank Lampard stuff yesterday, I was sort of thinking, well, how does this impact the Danjuma deal? If the deal's already done and completed, etc., then it'll be fine and it won't impact it at all. But if the deal isn't completed, then how could this possibly impact that situation? And, whether or not Frank Lampard leaving the football club did impact it, or whether or not it was just a case of Spurs coming and he wanted to go there instead, I don't know. But I am disappointed, because we are a team that are massively lacking any sort of attacking threat or any sort of attacking quality. And Danjuma would have brought that, and he would have given that. I'm not disappointed on the sense of the player himself, because I think he's pretty much shown his true colours here. And I said this on Twitter, and a lot of people said, what do you mean, Cam? Just because he didn't want to go to Everton, he prefers to go to Spurs? No, I don't blame any player that would rather go to Tottenham than Everton, to be honest with you, because look at the position Everton are in. Fighting relegation, no manager, clubs up in its arms, border an absolute disgrace, and us as fans are actively now trying to get them out. I don't blame him for wanting to go to a club that have got a brand spanking new stadium, I've got a world-class manager, and a club that's relatively in a comfortable position and fighting for the Champions League this season. It's not that. But when you hear things, and again, this is just rumours at the moment and stuff that hasn't been confirmed, but when you hear things about, him making certain demands before he signed the contract about who the next manager of the football club will be, and then you hear things that, saying that he gave his word to the club that he'd sign, and he was, all made up to sign, and his, this, that, and the other when he done his interview, and then, we not only didn't bother turning up to Finch Farm when he was supposed to, but didn't bother discussing it with the football club beforehand, and he completely turned his back on the football club. It all strikes me as the type of attitude that we really don't need. We don't need another player that is all about themselves and that only has their own interests at heart. We don't. And look, Danjuma might have come in, might have been brilliant, might have scored 10 goals for us, but had a shit attitude, and we'd all be sitting here going, I don't care, because he scored 10 goals and he's kept us up. But he might have come in equally and not done that and had a shit attitude and just added to another player in this squad. That attitude is absolutely disgusting, and that wasn't having an impact on the team positively. So, I'm not massively, upset about Everton not signing Danjuma, because ultimately he's not Lionel fucking Messi. It's not like we're sitting here and it was, if you sign him, you are guaranteed to stay up, and now he's gone elsewhere. His attitude definitely seems questionable. There's been reports over the last week that the whole David Moyes thing, if you don't know what the David Moyes thing was, apparently there was a report a couple of days ago saying that Danjuma wanted assurances that David Moyes wouldn't be the next Everton manager if he was going to sign. He was given those assurances anyway, and he still hasn't signed, and at this point I don't want him to sign. Even if he goes to Tottenham and goes, actually I'd rather go to Everton, get a fuck. And as I've said, because we don't need a player with the attitude that hasn't even got the professionalism to turn around and say, I'm actually going to go and speak with this football club as well, because this might be a better deal for me. But yeah, like I said before, again, the attitude would cause a problem for me, because we don't need that. We don't need players that are going to be more about themselves. And yes, he may well have come in and been absolutely fantastic for us, and people would say, well, I don't care about the attitude, but he may well have come in and not been fantastic for us and just been another member of the squad that ultimately is more interested in their own gain than Everton's gain. And so who do you blame for this situation? Well, you blame the player, because I understand when people say there's not much more the club could have done with this situation. As far as the club were concerned, this was a done deal, and it's the player that's made that decision. So I blame the player for how he's handled it. I don't blame the player for deciding to go to Spurs over Everton, because that is what it is. And again, I would never blame a player for that, because Spurs is in a much better position than Everton are. But I blame him for how he's handled this. But I do think there is an element of blame to be placed on the club. Not directly with this situation, because I understand that they'd done everything properly and it was a case of the player turning around and not doing what he should have done, or what he certainly said he was going to do. But this wouldn't be as big of a deal if this football club was run properly. And I'm saying that because, by the way, if you are enjoying this, over 300 people watching, if you could hit the like button, it would mean a great deal to me. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. By that, what I'm saying is, if Everton had just, let's just say, for example, Everton had a list of 5 players, and Arnold Danjuma was, let's say, number 2 on the list, because we'll assume that Autora was on that list, who's now gone to Bournemouth. So let's say Danjuma's number 2. Now, if that list existed, this wouldn't be a big issue, because Everton would just go, well, Danjuma doesn't want to come here, he's fell through, so we're just going to go and get number 3 instead. And if Everton were clever and were ramped properly, what Everton would do is, the minute that they knew about the Danjuma stuff, the minute that they knew that Danjuma had turned his back and all of a sudden gone, do you know what, I'm going to go elsewhere instead, they'd have gone to the media, to David Ornstein, to Sky Sports, to Paul Joyce, to whoever it is. They would have gone, well, we're going to go for this fella now, who's number 3. So actually, do you know what? We're going to give, here's this name. Go and put out in the press, in your articles, in your tweets, in this, that and the other, that Everton are now interested in this player. That Everton are now interested in going for him, who's number 3 on our list. And all of a sudden, that switches the narrative then. Because all of a sudden the narrative goes from, oh my God, it's the end of the world, we're not signing Danjuma, he doesn't want to come here, fold the football club, it's this, it's that's the other, to, well, alright, we're not signing Danjuma, but fuck him, because we're now interested in signing this player instead, and this player looks good, and he's of a similar stature, and okay, he mightn't be as good as Danjuma because he wasn't above him in the list, but he's still a relatively good player who could come in and could make an impact on Everton Football Club, so let's just focus our attention on him now. But Everton haven't done that, because Everton either haven't got that list together or haven't, come to that conclusion yet. It seems from the outside looking in that every egg was in the Danjuma basket, and now that basket, it's on its way down to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we're all up in arms and going, well, hang on, the club have been left, being made a mug of, and whilst that might be the case, that happens in football. Footballers are selfish, ruthless people. And agents are selfish, ruthless people, and these players and agents will go where it's best for them. Even if they've said, yeah, I'll 100% come down to you. If somebody else picks their phone up and says, actually, we've got a better deal here, they'll go to them. It's as simple as that. That's down to Everton to have a plan in place then to go, sound, you don't want to be here, sound, we'll just go to number 3. And Everton might have done that, Kevin Thelwell might have done that. Kevin Thelwell might be sitting there now going, I don't know what you're all stressed about, because, alright, he doesn't want to come here, but I've got this fella on the list underneath him who can come in and do a similar job. But if that's the case, leak that to the media, change the narrative, change the way in which we're all thinking about it. All of a sudden go, yeah, if you're going to put that out about Danjuma and Ornstein, do us a favour, lash this out about this fellow that we're now chasing and we're now after. So we can all, so the Evertonians will go, well, yeah, forget him. Let's focus our attention on him. Now, he doesn't want to come, fuck him. Let's focus our attention on him. But we don't. And as I said, it's symbolic of a football club that isn't run the way it should be. And it's symbolic of a football club that isn't run properly. And that is Everton. That simply is Everton. And also as well, before we move on, and we are going to move on because ultimately Danjuma isn't coming to Everton now, and he isn't going to be an Everton player. And quite frankly, I don't want him to be an Everton player, because anybody that displays that type of attitude and that type of ability to go behind your word or to, apparently his attitude stunk. And as I said, the David Moyes stuff was because David Moyes didn't like his attitude and didn't want to sign him for West Ham. And apparently there was other things that were going on during the medical and stuff where he was being a little bit of a diva. So fine, I don't want him. Move him on. Sound. We'll go for somebody else. But why? While we're on the topic, why do Everton take 727,000 years to announce a signing or to make a signing? And I hear people all the time saying it's dead hard to sign a player in professional football because a lot goes on behind the scenes, a lot goes on with it. This happens and that happens, and you've got to do medicals and you've got to do agreements and this, that and the other, and it takes time and there's a lot of paperwork, etc. But there's various other football clubs around the world and certainly around this country who get deals done instantly, and the Blues says FFP, and okay, well, I understand that Everton's situation now makes deals a lot more difficult and things a lot more difficult because you've got to structure deals the same way, but we've never done anything quickly. Other football clubs go from not being even mentioned in the same sentence as a certain player to being linked with the player, to being interested in the player, to bidding for the player, to having that bid accepted, to having personal terms agreed, to having a medical booked, a medical completed, the deal signed, and the player announced, all in the space of 5-6 hours. Liverpool done it with Cody Gakpo. 1 minute, they're interested in him. About 4 hours later, he's already signed and he's there with the shirt and they've announced it. Various other clubs have done it before. West Ham done it with Danny Ings. It goes from interest to announcement in the space of 2 or 3 hours. Everton don't do that. And okay, I understand at the moment FFP is a bit of an issue and maybe that makes it more difficult for these deals to be done. But even when we were throwing money about left, right and centre, even when we were given 50 million quid to Swansea for Sigurdsson and 40 million quid here and there and 30 million to Burnley for Michael Keane, deals still took 45,000 days to announce. Even the Tarkowski one, and all you heard all summer was, we can't announce it until the 1st of July, or all the rumours were was, well, the club can't announce it until the 1st of July, because that's when the window officially opens. Football clubs are announcing deals months and months in advance, and saying, we've agreed a deal for this player, by the way, he's not going to officially join until this date, because that's when the window opens, but the deal is agreed and it's in play. But with Everton, it was, well, we can't announce it until the 1st of July because that's when the actual thing... Well, why can't you just say, well, we've actually got a deal in place for this player and he's going to join on this date when the window opens? Because that all of a sudden relieves everybody's stress. Then I remember the Tarkowski stuff in the summer. There was weeks of absolute false reports of Tarkowski might be going here, he might be going there instead, this, that and the other. And it all come from Everton just not coming out and saying, he's ours. All right, he's not signed yet because we can't do that, but he's ours. Simple as that. Put people's minds at ease. Make it easier. Why does everything take 400 years? And again, could Everton have done the Danjuma deal quicker? I don't know. The reality is, I don't know, because I'm not privy to what's gone on behind the scenes, and I'm not privy to how this deal was done or how it was structured or whatever. I don't know. But it just seems that other football clubs get things done really quickly, and with Everton, it's always a 2 to 3 week thing, isn't it? It's always we're linked with the player, and then you know full well, even if they're nailed on to sign, that won't get announced for at least a week or 2 weeks. It is what and Bob says we hadn't announced the state sponsorship, so couldn't post the pictures, not defending the clubs. You don't, because you could have posted a picture of him in a Burnley kit and say Everton have come to an agreement with Burnley for the transfer of James Tarkowski. Simple as that. So many clubs have done it before. X club has come to an agreement with X club for the transfer of this player. I think Man United announced Cristiano Ronaldo about 46 times before he actually signed his contract, or before he was actually officially a United player, should I say. I think Chelsea done it with Mudryk a couple of weeks ago. It just screams of lack of organisation, lack of proactiveness, just lack of everything from the football club. And as I said, it seems that Everton couldn't really have done much more with the Danjuma stuff, and that is what it is. Fine, it is what it is. He's wanted to go somewhere else. I'm not really that arsed, because as I said, I'm not desensitised to it anymore. He's not Lionel Messi, and I'm not really that bothered, to be honest with you. His attitude seemingly stinks, and he's shite at footy. No, I'm only messing it. Look, he's obviously a very good player and would have helped us massively and would have been a massive plus point for us, but he's not the only one in the world that could do that. And as I said, if Everton were ran properly and Kevin Thelwell was doing his job properly, which I'm not saying he is and I'm not saying he isn't, but if he was, then he'd have a list of 3 or 4 other players that he could just move his attention to, because you don't put your eggs in one basket. You don't say, right, well, we're all in on this player and we're not even going to look at anyone else, we're all in on him, because what happens is it falls through like this and then you're left scraping and picking up pieces. And that's what Everton have done for years, and hopefully that's not the case now. Hopefully over the next couple of days we start to hear rumours about another player, being on the radar or whatever. Tom says, Tottenham fan here, feel like I owe you an apology. Feel for you, Cam, but stick with it. Superb channel. You're the definition of a proper football fan. Solidarity. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. You don't owe me an apology, because ultimately Tottenham are a more attractive football club than Everton at the moment. I've got no problem with saying that, and I've got no problem with admitting that that's the truth. I have a problem with the way Danjuma's handled it, because it seems from the outside looking in like he could have handled it more professionally. But as I said, I'm not sitting here crying my eyes out because he's not joined Everton Football Club. I would have liked him to have joined Everton Football Club, but for me, as I said at the start of the live stream, it is just another day in the life of being an Evertonian. And we're used to this at this point. We are used to it. Bob says, hey, Cam, I blame the sacking of Frank, and Danjuma saying the club is badly run. I haven't heard him say that. Frank brought me here. Now I don't know what manager is coming in. I haven't heard him saying that, to be honest. Bob says, other Bob says, Anwar El Ghazi 6-month loan. Oliver says, we're taking blows left, right and centre. The Blues says, I don't think he'd sign anyway. People think I'm pointless and negative, but I get proven right. Yeah, it's fair enough. Tiger says, you're saying the same shite over and over. You are rattled that he hasn't come. Honestly, mate, I'm not arsed. I'm really not arsed. If you watch this channel, the Blues will tell you, Live Vid will tell you, Tom will tell you, Bob will tell you. These people have watched me. A lot of these people have watched me for 3-4 years. They know when I'm arsed. If you want to see me arsed, go and watch the instant match reactions to West Ham. I'm genuinely not that arsed now. What I would say to you, as a Tottenham fan, Tom, is you didn't really need another forward because you've already got a forward who sits on your bench who you don't use. So if you're bringing in another forward to effectively sit on your bench and not use, then can we have the one we gave you in the summer back, please? Because he actually would be great for us now and would actually be better than what Danjuma would be. So can we have him back? Because you don't really need him. He's not really playing. So, yeah. How good would that be if Everton just went to Danjuma, fuck off, mate, and Tottenham went, yeah, you can have Richarlison back on a 6-month loan. We'd all be made up. It's not going to happen, but we'd all be made up. So anyway, yeah, look, that's the Danjuma stuff. As I said, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's Everton for you. I'm not overly as emotional as some people are, but I understand why people are, because again, it's another player who would have come in and would have massively helped us that now isn't coming, and it puts us back, at where we were 3-4 weeks ago when, we all knew we needed a forward and we thought we'd got one and now we haven't. So I get why people are annoyed, I get why people are frustrated. It doesn't genuinely, as much as I've said before, I think Everton will be relegated. And I will stick with that until I'm proven otherwise. And by proven otherwise, I mean until the new manager comes in and changes what's going on at the football club, changes the way in which these players perform, and, obviously bring new additions come in to help that process. I wasn't sitting here thinking, if we get Danjuma, we'll 100% stay up. I wasn't, ultimately, so I'm not that heartbroken about it. But anyway, we'll move on from him. He's not coming to Everton. Apparently his training gear is laid out at Finch Farm, which is interesting. If it is, then send it to me, please, because I've got footy tomorrow, and I wouldn't mind some new gear, and he's not going to use it, is it? So send it to me. Anyway, on to the next rumour and next report. As I said, doesn't stop for us Evertonians, does it? It never stops, in fact. Just when we thought we'd maybe only have a day of, managerial news and rumours, and I thought I'd be coming on here to talk about Marcelo Bielsa or Sean Dyche or whoever. No, we're talking about players. Craig Hope of the Daily Mail reported a couple of hours ago that Newcastle have begun formal talks with Everton over a deal for Anthony Gordon. Newcastle are hoping for an upfront fee of £25 million with £15 million in add-ons, so £40 million overall. Will do a deal. Everton are thought to be asking for closer to £60 million. Craig Hope also said that Chelsea have a long-standing interest in Anthony Gordon and could be willing to loan him back out to them if a deal is done. I don't know whether that's loaning back out to Everton if a deal is done. I wouldn't want that. If he's going, then he can go. I don't see what use that would be. As I said before, Luke Edwards of The Telegraph has reported that Newcastle are growing in confidence that they will beat Chelsea to the signing of Anthony Gordon from Everton, with the player keen on a move to St James's Park. So, yeah, multiple reports suggesting that Newcastle now are seemingly in the lead for Anthony Gordon, with Chelsea chasing behind them. Again, quite similar to the Danjuma stuff, really. I'm not that heartbroken at the idea of Anthony Gordon leaving Everton Football Club this transfer window. I think we'd be quite, let's just say, cheeky to ask for almost £60 million because he isn't worth £60 million. Will he ever be worth £60 million? I don't know. As I've just mentioned before, we also heard from Sky Sports News about an hour ago that both Anthony Gordon and Amadou Onana have not turned up for training today at Finch Farm. We're going to talk about Amadou Onana in a second because he's been linked with a move away today as well, which makes the not turning up at Finch Farm a little bit more interesting than the Gordon stuff. I think we all expected Gordon to be linked with a move away, and I think the majority of us probably expected Gordon to leave in this window. The Onana stuff is a bit of a surprise and one that I don't think we could take, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, listen, Gordon leaving the football club. If the right money comes in, I'd have absolutely no issue with selling Anthony Gordon. Now, I don't think that Everton are going to get £60 million for him. I don't. Whether Everton get even 25, £30 million for him, I think would still be a surprise because I just simply don't think he's worth that money. I would sell Anthony Gordon for £30 million personally, because I think that we could use that money and invest that money elsewhere, and all of a sudden we wouldn't have to scrape around looking for loan deals and looking for, bits and bobs to try and screw together to make some form of financial package for players, and we maybe wouldn't be left in the position that we've been left in with the Danjuma stuff. We'd actually be able to go out and, actively pick a player that would be high on the list and go and pay for them and hopefully get the deal done within a matter of hours rather than a matter of months. But yeah, as I said, Newcastle seemingly very, very interested in this. I'd take 25 million with 15 million add-ons. I really, really would, because I just don't think Anthony Gordon's that great. Now, obviously, if Everton are wanting more and think they can get more from Newcastle, listen, if there's one football club in the world that are going to give you more money than maybe what a player is worth, it's Newcastle, because they've got money to burn. And Eddie Howe is very clearly an admirer of Anthony Gordon, and I think the Newcastle owners and Dan Ashworth will give Eddie Howe exactly what he wants because of how well things are going there at the moment. Similarly, if there's another football club that'll pay over the odds for one of your players, it would be Chelsea, because Todd Bowley is very much in a similar position of just wanting to throw money left, right and centre at anybody that Graham Potter seemingly has an interest in or flirts an eye with. So what I don't think Everton should do is accept the first bid. What I don't think Everton should do is say, yeah, give us 10 million quid and you can have him. I think Everton should try and exploit the maybe the wealth of those two football clubs, and maybe even have them enter some form of bidding war for Anthony Gordon to try and lift the price or whatever, because I don't really think that Anthony Gordon would have an issue going to either club. But as I said, and again, I don't know whether this comes from the same sort of position that I have with the Danjuma stuff of just being a little bit blasé about what's going on at the moment, and I'm more interested in this board being removed and actually choosing, and the owner or the director of football actually choosing the right manager to come in and take us forward, as opposed to a winger that is bang average, bit staying or going. Yeah, as I said, I'd personally have no issue with selling Anthony Gordon if we can get the right money for him, if we can get the right fee for him, and then we can ultimately then use that fee in the last week or so of the transfer window, because that's all it is, by the way. That the transfer window closes, I think, on the 1st of February, which would mean I can't get the date up because Ned has always texted me, which would be in a week today, a week tomorrow, the transfer window officially closing. So if we can get that deal done and Newcastle are willing, or Chelsea are willing, to give us that money and give us the majority of it up front, then I've got no problem with selling Anthony Gordon. I don't, and I don't think many other Evertonians would have a problem with selling Anthony Gordon for big money, because then it gives us a week to go out and replace him, and replace him with somebody that is more likely to have an impact on Everton. It's very clear that Anthony Gordon wants to go. It's very clear that Anthony Gordon would like a move to Chelsea, and again, I think Anthony Gordon will probably stay neutral in this, and by that what I mean is it will probably be a similar stance from the player as it was in the summer of well, I want to leave and I'm open to leave, but if I don't leave, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to sit here and cause an issue. Maybe he will, I don't know, but if Anthony Gordon wants to leave and Everton can get the right money for him, then I think Everton would be absolutely stupid to deny that. Again, the player would be happy, and I think we could use that money to bring in better and to bring in somebody that is more likely to have a much more of a positive impact on the football club than Antony is at the moment. Antony's a good player, and Antony's a player that in 4 or 5 years might be one of the best in the country, and we might be sitting here going, oh, we should never have sold him. But at the moment, the right decision for Everton and where Everton are and what Everton are going to go into over the course of the next couple of months, i.e. another relegation battle, I think we could use that money wisely to strengthen in other areas of the pitch, to bring in better, to ultimately give us a better chance of staying in this division. Whether or not it happens, we'll wait and see. But I get the feeling, and again, I'm just trying to gauge a feeling from the reports I'm reading and from stuff you're seeing on social media and you're hearing in, the media, etc., etc. I'm sort of gauging that Everton are, would be open to this, and Everton, ultimately wouldn't stop this move. Keith Downey from Sky Sports reporting 5 minutes ago that Newcastle are in talks with Everton for Anthony Gordon. Don't believe talks are advanced with Everton yet, but thought a bid of around 40 million could tempt the Toffees to sell. Gordon missing from Everton training today, unsure if it's related. Again, quite possibly 40 million quid. Would you take it? Let me know in the comments. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a little poll in the comments, because why would I not throw a little poll in the comments? We've got nearly 350 people watching, only 74 likes though, so if we could get them likes up, then that would be a massively appreciated. If we could hit the like button, that would be absolutely great. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well, because it only takes a second, and we'll be doing live streams like this pretty much every day for the course of the next however long we haven't got a manager for, and however long the transfer window is open for. So I've put a poll in the comments there. As I said, 350 people watching. Get involved with it. Anthony Gordon, 40 million quid. Would you sell him for? No. There's some reports saying that Newcastle are wanting to pay us 25 million and 15 million in add-ons. Obviously, we don't know how this deal will be structured, but let's just say 40 million quid. Would you take that for Anthony Gordon? I personally, if you're asking me, I'd personally take that for Anthony Gordon. I really, really would. I think we could spend that money in other areas, and it would benefit us much more than what Anthony is currently giving us at the moment. It's all well and good saying, yeah, but Cammy might be unbelievable in 5 years, but we don't need him in 5 years. We need him now, and he's not unbelievable now. Yeah, there you go. On to the next rumour then, and the next report, which is surrounding another Everton player who has seemingly missed training today, according to Ben Islington, Ben Grounds, on Twitter. Anthony Gordon and Amadou Onana have not reported for training at Finch Farm, and there was a report earlier on today as to suggest that Chelsea and Arsenal are interested in Amadou Onana. It come from Nazar Kinsella, who is a Chelsea correspondent for Standard Sport. He said Chelsea and Arsenal are both interested in signing Everton midfielder Amadou Onana. I think there was actually a report yesterday before Frank Lampard was officially sacked from Sasha Taravuli on Twitter as well, who's a Belgian reporter, suggesting that both Chelsea and Arsenal, as well as Newcastle, have all expressed an interest in Amadou Onana. Matt Law of The Telegraph, who again is a very reliable source, he has reported that Chelsea have shown an interest in both Anthony Gordon and Amadou Onana, and then he said that Chelsea have considered a deal involving sending Gordon back to Everton on loan, which is the same as what we read out before. Again, that doesn't make any sense for me. I don't know why Everton would want that. But if Everton could get the money for him and get Anthony Gordon and then go and get somebody even better, then yeah, why not? It just means that he would go in the summer. The Onana stuff is interesting. It's really interesting because I don't think there's that many Blues out there that are particularly arsed about Anthony Gordon leaving, especially if the money's right. I think Onana is a completely different kettle of fish. Look, it gives very sort of fire sale vibes, doesn't it? This of, Everton wanting to sell everybody that they could possibly deem as an asset to try and make as much money as possible. Obviously, we don't know whether there's any truth in this. We don't know whether there's any truth in Amadou Onana missing training because of this. He might have missed training for another reason. He might have just been given the day off. Who knows? But it would be interesting to see what Amadou Onana feels on this, because I don't think any of us are under the illusion that Amadou Onana would leave Everton Football Club if Everton were to be relegated. I think that is the case. I think that's absolutely the case. I don't think any of us are under the illusion that Amadou would still be an Everton player if Everton are playing Championship football next season, because he wouldn't be. Of course, he'd move on, as would Jordan Pickford, as would probably Connor Cody not sign on a permanent, as would probably, various other players in the squad, the Wobie, whoever else it is, would probably want to, prefer to move away from the football club as well. Again, given that, and given that Everton are managerless at this point, and given that Everton are heading towards another relegation battle, it would be interesting to see if a move was proposed to Onana. Would he think to jump ship, a few months earlier and avoid that sort of pressure and stress of going through a relegation battle? And obviously, again, just cut out the middleman of having to go through that and then get a move at the end of it. He might be thinking, well, may as well get a move before it happens. I don't know. What I would say to Chelsea is Amadou Onana, although I don't think he's been untouchable for Everton this season, and as I said, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I've said it in Instant Match Reactions, every player has a price, and if Todd Bowley wants to give us ridiculous money for Amadou Onana, then Everton should absolutely be taking ridiculous money, because every one of these players, none of them are untouchable. None of them you look at and go, oh, it's absolutely imperative that he doesn't leave the football club. But by silly money, I do mean silly money. And I don't think, for as much as Todd Bowley's throwing it about at the moment, I don't necessarily think Everton would get that money that maybe we would deem acceptable for Onana. It would create another problem, because ultimately it would mean Everton would then have to go out and replace Onana if we were to sell him. And as I said, for us to do that, it would mean that it would have to be a ridiculous amount of money, to the point where we could just go out and bring in a replacement, and also bring in a couple of other players in other positions as well. This one's going to be interesting, because I 100% believe that clubs will be interested in Onana this window. I 100% believe Chelsea will be interested in Onana this window. I don't want to sell him. I don't want to sell him personally, and I'm not saying Everton should sell him. I'm not. I don't want to sell him, and preferably he would stay at Everton, and hopefully he doesn't want to leave, because that would just throw a massive spanner in the works, because ultimately if he wants to leave, then that effectively puts Everton in a back to the wall situation, because all of a sudden Chelsea then go, well, we're not going to give you a stupid amount of money because he wants to come to us anyway. So effectively you're in a sticky situation. Hopefully Onana turns around and says, I don't want to leave, and then it is a case of, well, unless you give us 80 million quid or 100 million quid, then you're not, he's not going anywhere. But this is Everton, and last night we all went to bed thinking that Danjuma is an Everton player and he'd get announced today, that Onana was staying the rest of the season, and that, we were going to have a new manager over the next couple of days. We've woken up, Danjuma's gone to fucking Tottenham, Onana might be leaving, and, we're still no closer to getting a manager. So, yeah, who knows? I suppose this is just another wait and see what happens situation with Onana. The one thing that concerns me is how the player will react to these rumours, and how the player will react to an incest. Will the player now go, well, actually, I mightn't get an incest from Chelsea and Arsenal if I stay here, and we go down, and them teams might look and go, actually, he wasn't that great for them, so we'll look elsewhere. And he might think, this is my chance to make that move. Or he might think, no, do you know what? I'm Everton. Do you know what? I'm young. I'm a player. I want to stay here. I want to fight for this football club. I love this football club, and I want to fight. Who knows? Fat Wallace makes a good point. He says, "Come on, Cam, use this money wisely. Remember what board we have." That is very true. To be honest with you. And I don't trust anybody at this football club at the moment to spend any money we get from Anthony Gordon or Amadou Onana or anybody else. I don't trust anybody to spend it wisely, because they've not proven to me that they can do that. Whether or not Amadou Onana leaves Everton, we'll wait and see. Whether or not there's anything more than just an incest in this, we'll wait and see as well. I would assume that Everton's stance would be that Onana isn't going anywhere. I think the club stance on Gordon is very different. I think the club would probably allow Gordon to leave. Onana, I think, would be very different. But then again, we haven't got a manager. So the new manager might come in and go, actually, do you know what? I don't really want to use this lad. He doesn't really suit my style. We'll move him on for whatever money we can get. I doubt it, but We haven't got a manager, so we don't know. Don't forget, if you haven't voted in that poll, by the way, 119 votes on that poll. Would you take £40 million for Gordon? Because that is the reported fee. 93% out of 120 votes have said yes. So very much like me, I'd 100% take £40 million for Anthony Gordon, to be honest with you. But yeah, the Onana stuff is certainly interesting. Again, I'm not going to sit here and speculate as to why he's not turned up for training, because we don't know. We don't know why he hasn't turned up. We don't know why Gordon hasn't turned up. We don't know whether that has got anything to do with the rumours that we're reading in the news. We simply don't know. And I'm not going to pretend to know, and I'm not going to sit here and, falsely report reasons as to why those players haven't turned up for training. We'll do a little bit of a manager update then, because ultimately Frank Lampard is being sacked. We'll go from the statement that Everton released, and then we'll talk about sort of everybody that we've been linked with since then, because I think that's the right way to do it, because we spoke about some of the names. We spoke about Bielsa, we spoke about Allardyce, we spoke about Dyche yesterday when we done the live stream about Frank Lampard being relieved of his duties. So last night Everton did announce Lampard had left the football club after about 4 days of us knowing that it was the case anyway. They announced that about 8 o'clock, conveniently just as Tottenham were playing Fulham, which was convenient. Everton announced that Everton Football Club can confirm that Frank Lampard has left his post as senior men's first team manager. Joe Edwards, Paul Clement, Ashley Cole and Chris Jones have also left the club. Alan Kelly will remain as goalkeeping coach. Everyone at Everton would like to thank Frank and his coaching staff for their service during what has been a challenging 12 months. Frank and his team's commitment and dedication has been exemplary throughout their time at the club, but recent results and current league position meant this difficult decision had to be taken. We wish Frank and all of his backroom team well for the future in the game. The club have started the process to secure a new manager and will provide updates on the appointment in due course. Paul Tate and Leighton Baines will take training until a new manager is appointed. How many times have we seen that? The club have started the process of employing a new manager, and we will provide an update in due course. You never do get an update, so don't listen to a word they say. David Ornstein was then on NBC a little bit later on in the evening. He said the news of Lampard being sacked by Managerial took people at the club by surprise. It hadn't been communicated internally, and that also sort of matches reports we'd heard even earlier on in the day that we spoke about during yesterday's live stream, about some players finding out that Lampard had been sacked by TalkSport, and some players not even having that communicated to them. And I sat here on the live stream yesterday and said how ridiculous that is, and how although these players are responsible for what's going on as well, and they should take the blame, that they must feel like they're working in a workplace where they're not even respected enough to be provided with an important piece of information, an important bit of news that has a direct effect on them. They weren't even provided with that. They found that out via social media like everybody else, which is nonsense. There's since been murmurs and reports over the course of today that the actual news was leaked by Frank Lampard's team, that Frank Lampard had been sacked, and his team had actually leaked that news to the media before Everton's communication team even knew that was the case. Which, if that's the case, then again, that's obviously nothing to do with Everton, but it's just another shambles of a situation for what is. Before we go further, Vaughan says, hi Cam, Sky Sports News just said Hasenhüttl is now the preferred choice. Your thoughts? No. Basically, I said yesterday that I don't know who the answer is, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, it's not Dyche, or it's not Rooney, or it's not X, or it's not Y, because ultimately I don't know who the answer is. I don't know who's the right person for the job. I don't know who's the wrong person for the job. And to be honest with you, everybody I look at now, I just think, yeah, whatever. But Hasenhüttl for me is an absolute no. Imagine Everton lost 9-0, by the way. Imagine Everton lost 9-0. He wouldn't get out the stadium. Yeah. So we heard that from David Ornstein, as I said, and then obviously we've had all of the reports over the last day or so about the manager. Marcus said Everton have contacted former Villarreal manager Marcelino Garcia. Paul Joyce said that West Ham manager Carlos Corberán is being considered for the Everton manager's job. Matt Law And Chris Bascombe said Marcelo Bielsa is Farhad Mercedes' preferred choice for the Everton manager. West Brom manager Carlos Comberian, and former Southampton manager Ralph Hassan, who will have admirers at the club, are in contention. Paul Joyce said Bielsa is Everton's top target to take the manager's job. There is a belief that the former Leeds manager is willing to take the job. However, the interest in him will need to be backed by director of football Kevin Thelwell and the Everton board. We all know that the Marcelo Bielsa interest and the Marcelo Bielsa story is being run by the owner, despite the owner saying, I don't employ the managers. He also said, I don't sack the managers, and then sack Frank Lampard. Anyway, the Mail reported this morning that Everton have sounded out Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou for the manager's job. Sean Dyche and David Moyes have also been considered. Pete O'Rourke said Marcelo Bielsa has rejected interest from Everton, and Brentford manager Thomas Frank has also rejected interest. Sammy Mockbell of the Daily Mail, who's quite a reliable source, said Sam Allardyce has held initial talks with Everton about returning to the club. Allardyce still has admirers from key figures at Everton due to his experience in guiding teams threatened by relegation to safety. Mockbell then said Bielsa has serious reservations about the Everton manager's job, and it remains to be seen if Everton will try and persuade him or move to other possible candidates. The Mail Sport then reported that Marcelo Bielsa has told Everton that the team is too slow to play the way he wants, and they must prioritise signing fast players in defensive areas before the transfer window closes if he is to replace Frank Lampard as manager. So Bielsa reportedly is basically saying, if you don't sign this type of player, then I'm not coming. And to be fair, he's probably right. The team is too slow to play the way he wants to play. We spoke about this yesterday when we spoke about Bielsa. These players would last about 30 seconds in his style, and then they'd be absolutely knackered because none of them are fit enough and none of them are quick enough to play his style of play. Paul Joyce said that Everton had believed the feedback from Marcelo Bielsa on becoming Everton's next manager was positive. Bielsa, though, has concerns about the state Everton are in, and convincing him to accept the job will be more problematic. Joyce also said Sean Dyche is being sounded out for the Everton manager's job. However, there is a reluctance to appoint him. West Brom manager Carlos Comberian is a candidate for the role. Farhad Mercedes has remained in contact with Sam Allardyce. So it seems that Marcelo Bielsa is Mercedes' number one choice. As I've gauged by the report, it seems that Mercedes' number two choice is Sam Allardyce, which is no surprise. And it also seems that other people within the football club are trying to put together David Moyes. It's no shock to figure out who that is. The Carlos Comberian one is interesting. I assume that's Bill Kenwright's doing as well. Dyche, again, is obviously being put forward by somebody. Really and truly, this is a very simple process for me. I'm not asked who Farhad Mercedes wants as the manager, because Farhad Mercedes has chosen managers before, namely Rafa Benitez, and they've been a complete and utter disaster. I'm not asked who Bill Kenwright wants as a manager, because Bill Kenwright should have absolutely no say on this decision whatsoever. I'm not asked who Denise Barrett-Baxendale wants as a manager, because she should have no say on this deal whatsoever, on this situation whatsoever. I'm asked about who Kevin Thelwell wants as a manager, and if Kevin Thelwell wants Sean Dyche, then Everton should appoint Sean Dyche. If Kevin Thelwell wants Marcelo Bielsa, then Everton should appoint Marcelo Bielsa. If Kevin Thelwell wants Wayne Rooney, then Everton should appoint Wayne Rooney. Because the reality is, the director of football is in place to make those decisions, to direct the football, to choose the manager, and to then, recruit players that suit that manager. I'm not asked what Farhad Mercedes wants. Farhad Mercedes got what he wanted numerous times before, and it's failed. Bill Kenwright's got what he wanted numerous times before, and it's failed. If you are not going to allow the director of football to make this decision, then you may as well do what we've done with Brands and what we've done with Steve Walsh and say, do you know what? We're not even having a director of football, because they're absolutely pointless. Absolutely pointless. And I don't know whether Dyche is the right man for the job. I don't know whether Bielsa is the right man for the job. If you were to ask me, I think Dyche has got his negatives. I think Bielsa has got his negatives, and they've obviously both got their positives as well. The Bielsa thing, I actually agree with what Bielsa seems to agree with, is that the way he likes to play, this team are not capable of doing that. And I think the whole reason Bielsa was sacked from Leeds towards the back end of last season was because he couldn't change that around. That Leeds team very quickly became unable to play the way he wanted to play, and he wasn't able to adapt or change or make any any necessary changes to help that Leeds team. And then ultimately he was sacked for Jesse Marsh. I don't know whether Wayne Rooney's the right man for the job. I don't know whether Sam Allardyce is the right man for the job. But Everton, for me, should only be appointing the manager that Kevin Thelwell wants to appoint, because he's the director of football and it is his responsibility to make that decision. And if it isn't his responsibility to make that decision, then why the fuck is he the director of football of Everton Football Club? What is the point in him being there? Now, I know people are going to say, well, who do you want, Cam? Who do you prefer? Who's your choice? Who do you think would be the best man for the job? I honestly don't know. Tedesco is another name that's being thrown in there. I honestly don't know. And that's the honesty of the question. And I don't think many people know. I don't think there's anybody out there that knows the right answer to this equation, that knows who the right man is and can 100% categorically say they're the person to take Everton forward, they're the person to, win Everton, keep Everton in the league and drive Everton for the next 3-4 years, whatever it may be. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. So I can't sit here and say, yeah, I'm Dyson, or I'm Bielsa in, or I'm Rooney in, because I don't know whether any of those people are good enough to do the job we need them to do. But what I will say is, whoever Kevin Thelwell wants, I want. And if they fail, then we know very clearly, well, that was Thelwell's choice, it's failed, and Thelwell therefore is incapable of doing the job. We can't do another Mercedes decided the manager, oh look, Mercedes wrong again. We can't have another Bills decided the manager, oh look, Bill's wrong again. We just can't do that. But one thing I will say is, Allardyce, Rooney, Bielsa, these are all names that are going to continue to crop up over the course of the next week or 2 weeks or however long it takes us to employ a football manager. And these are names that we're going to continuously talk about over the course of the next week, 2 weeks, until we employ a football manager. And I'm sure this list will get shorter and shorter and shorter. But as of now, I don't know who the right manager is. I don't know what the right decision is. I just don't know. I will do some digging and I'll do some reading and I'll do some research on who I think suits Everton most for the moment. The obvious one is Allardyce, because ultimately he is he's the master at going into teams in similar situations to Everton, working with them and keeping them in the Premier League like he did with Everton last time. But he had a really good record of doing that, and then he went to West Brom and he failed and he ultimately got relegated. So that hinders his chances instantly, because what he's known for, last time he tried to do it, he failed. So I don't know. It looks at the moment, as I said, that Bielsa is Mercedes' choice and therefore is leading the race, because obviously Mercedes makes the decision. Because why would he allow the fella he's put him in pole to make the decision? It seems like Dyche is maybe a choice of Ken Wright. Obviously Moyes is a choice of Ken Wright. I'm sure that there's a couple of names in there that are Thelwell's choice as well. The West Brom manager, Corberan, seems a choice of Thelwell's, although I might be wrong. But I don't know. We'll just wait and see. I am going to finish that poll now, and we're going to get the results in. 219 people have voted on it, and it reads £40 million for Anthony Gordon. Would you take it? 88% of people said yes out of 219 votes. I absolutely would do that myself. But anyway, we're going to leave it there. As I said, we'll be back over the next 24 hours with the review to the West Ham game. It'll probably be a video, and I'm sure there'll be a load of you that don't want to watch it, because you'll think, what's the point in talking about this? But I have to do it because I do reviews of every game. And then, of course, we'll be back tomorrow with another live stream. I dare say talking more about Anthony Gordon, Amadou Onana, maybe a bit more on Danjuma, although I don't want to talk about him anymore because he's very clearly not coming to Everton. And obviously we'll be talking more about the managerial situation as well, because that's obvious, isn't it? That's very clearly obvious. But yeah, at the moment, this has been a day. I think it's fair to say this has been a day. And look, we might even be back later, because who knows what happens with Everton Football Club? Who knows? I could go to the gym and come home in an hour, and all of a sudden, we could have sold every single footballer and employed me Nan as manager, and we might be talking about that. So who knows? But if anything does break and there is any breaking news or latest information, then we will be live with it on the channel. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It does only take a second. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit that like button. If you've enjoyed it and you've watched it live, massive thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you watched this YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with all of them as well. But big thank you all for watching. As I said, please do leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.